Hey guys, this is Obsidian Chill. Got another video for today, and I wanted to create another brief video just on the double XP. I know I covered some of it in my last video with the UG nerf, but we did find some more information out. So this was a post from today from MEPS. So this is regarding about the extra gift that players would get if they had Gemini already 200 before this adjustment happened. So the latest is that we don't think this is today or tomorrow, so we will also be extending the bonus XP week for another whole week. This is to make sure that people do receive the gift. They will have ample time to use it and double it like others could. So that's good news, so that we have double XP this week and next week. So I thought with that extended, A, to let you guys know, and B, to kind of touch on it, because I know it's only been 2 months since our last double XP, so I did have a video here, which I don't want to go into like full detail. You can watch this because really, since this video, only 2 things have changed. Even the DPS side, I wasn't sure about Gemini. That's why I said unknown status. So really, the only thing that's changed since this video 2 months ago has been the introduction of E-Bomb's Tethered Shadow and the adjustments to either Gemini. So I'll still go through and do what I feel like it, but you can definitely watch this video. I'll link it in the description if you want kind of more detailed. Because I do like might artifacts, precision, I touch on the power control arts, I touch on the buff controller arts, I touch on the tank artifacts, peer healer, battle healer, and as well as artifacts to consider leveling, and then the artifacts that are outside the meta. I don't think anything's changed here. Nope. Demon Fang, I mean, they did buff that so as a battle healer, but I mean, if you're not a main, if you're not actual battle healing with like Clarion and Demon Fang, there's no point to level Demon Fang. Orb is an option, but I still don't feel that's going to be necessary because you're going to see a lot more players running E-Bomb, and that's going to be higher power costs from a lot of Might players. So if you're using Orb, that's already a high power cost for that. So I think the controllers are going to struggle at that point if you have like a whole bunch of DPS using E-Bomb and then a healer using Orb. Plus, Orb is not really necessary. It's situational, but I don't feel like it's worth the 200 level just because how less often you're going to use it. So if you want to see this video, I'll put it in the description. But let's jump in the game and kind of show you what I feel like you should be focusing on this double XP. So each time one of these events come up, I find myself answering the same question when people ask what artifacts I should level, and I see that's completely subjective to you as a player. There's so many different combinations of artifacts depending on what you're doing. If you're looking for just like a quick 3 artifacts that you can be competitive with, you could be like multiple swap artifacts. If you're doing support, DPS, it's just, there's so many different layers to it. That's why it's really difficult to answer. And there's some power sets where you want more specific artifacts where you don't need others. So it's just, I can kind of try touching some of it here, but just be aware that when you have like 40 different artifacts and different combinations and so many different swap artifacts, it creates a situation where, you can't just say what artifact should I level when it's going to be like, 6 or 7 artifacts you got to answer, especially like when you look at Might DPS. If you want just 3 artifacts that you can run just for, that cover pretty much every single situation, single target, AoE, every power set, it's going to be Transstrat and Quizlet. To some degree, it's going to be Soul Amplifier, but a lot of the time, Heat Vision, you don't require the extra proc. It's really content dependent if there's a boss and ads, but there's not too much of that anymore. So you can get away without Soul Amplifier, but if you still have it, it's not like you have to get rid of it. It's just be one of those situational artifacts. And then same thing, now that either Gemini is a DPS, as a DPS specifically, when people ask me if they should still run it, I mean, it still works. Like you still get the damage from the 25, 5k or 10k, but the only issue is that it's really risky to run it because you don't want that canceled. Personally, as a DPS, if you were like I wouldn't say a comp DPS, but if you were focusing on competitive DPS, I would still keep it as a swap artifact or for situations like say hallway ads, stuff like that. But in terms of what you should swap, it should be scrap instead. So when you use a supercharge, instead of swapping an eye in the Gemini just for some possibly extra damage that does get canceled, you still want to swap in scrap so you get the cooldown reduction as well as the increased regen. That's what you want to focus on. Instead of swapping in Gemini, which is now swap art, it's going to be scrap. And I know this, for some people new to the game, this terminology is going to go like right through your head, but it's just, it's really detailed and in depth when you get into like the multi-level like artifact swaps. And then really, if you want to get into a situation where you want to be more on the competitive side or focus on your damage potential, that's when you're looking at like E-Bomb and Amulet now. So Transstrat and Amulet and E-Bomb. Then you're using like the artifact swap on one of these on the finisher to Dead King Scepter, which is shown in a few videos, and what I talked about in some videos as well. It's basically becoming more common. Not an exploit, but it's certainly, you know, basically cheesy AF. So that definitely needs to be adjusted. But I'm just letting you know that's what people are doing. Then you still got the mercy swap. You still got the flute swap on your supercharges. You still got like that philosopher's stone on your supply drops. So there's still a bunch of swaps involved with Might DPS. It just depends on how much of a level you want to get into. So for Prec DPS, what you have to be aware of for kind of Quizlet versus Grim. Quizlet is great, but you have to use a superpower every 5 seconds. So the whole debate like Quizlet versus Grim, Quizlet is better in every single case than Grim, except for 2 situations. One, if you're Prec DPS and you're using like say dash attack, or not dash attack, like Dervish and Vortex Trap and like the mines from gadgets, suppressor turret. If you're using abilities that don't deal damage to the target to clip your either your brawling shuriken storms or flurry shots, that's when you run into issues. That's where Grim can be better. Which, I mean, I hate telling a Prec DPS just to level Grim because it's a useless artifact besides that. Or if you're in a really power heavy group with like Robot Sidekick, you don't get the power reduction from Robot Sidekick with Grim at 200. So what I mean by Quizlet, for example, if we just throw this on, let me just throw quickly on like a weapon buff and mass debt, which I can jump cancel. So if we get Quizlet out, let me just jump the logs here. So Quizlet's range attacks, that's his basic attack. That's the same level as Grim, but obviously Grim is going to do more damage than the base damage. But if I'm using a Might power, you see Mega Blast. So the Mega Blast here that you see hit, I mean, it hit the base items as well. I mean, that's not the perfect example, but you see Mega Blast. That's what is the AoE attack. That's what, as long as you're hitting a power every 5 seconds, that's what Quizlet's going to do. But if I'm using like a Prec power that's not going to do any damage, like say I use like Fiery Weapon, there's no Mega Blast. If I'm using like, you say like Mass Debt to clip something with and jump clip it, same thing. There's no, I'm not getting any Mega Blast even though I'm hitting a power. So that's what you'd be mindful of. We can just cancel that out here. So that's what you have to be aware of as Prec. If you're not hitting a damaging ability every 5 seconds, then Grim is going to be the better alternative. But if you are hitting a power every 5 seconds, then Mega Blast gets you the 1% supercharge regen, it gets you the refractor beam procs on the 5 and 10Ks. You know, the damage potential is infinitely higher with Quizlet than Grim. You just have to make sure that as a Prec DPS, you're hitting it every 5 seconds. So that's what to be aware. I mean, I hate that you have to level Grim just because you don't want to hit a power every 5 seconds, but I mean, hey, you chose to be a Prec DPS. But in terms of that, like Venomous Dispenser becomes a swap artifact. It is handy every... the weapon buff is going to be 12 seconds, or technically it's going to last 20 seconds, unless you're water and do the recharge. But I don't believe that is meta anymore. It was in the past with Venomous Dispenser. But Venomous, you could certainly level that and have that as basically a swap option, so you can still have like Transstrat Grim as a Prec DPS, and then swap in Venomous, swap in Scrap on a super, and that's basically like the 5 artifact combo you're looking for. And then still swapping in like Dead King, Philosopher's Stone, that kind of stuff, the Mercy swap, which is all kind of universal. It does scale with Might, but if you're looking for Prec DPS, then yeah, it's Transstrat Grim. Tanking hasn't changed. I'm not going to really cover tank artifacts. I mean, for tank artifacts, I didn't really even use Gemini anyways. I mean, you can still use it, but it's not going to be much regen at all unless you're using like a super generator. But I mean, you could still put it in. You could put out the Gemini into Refractor if you wanted to, and still run Manacles. Where's Mystic? I mean, there's Lazarus too. Where's Everyman? So like I said before, you can get away with these three, like Manacles, Mystic, and Everyman. Works for every tank combination. Is it going to be perfect for every situation? No. But for every single tank combo, you could run these 3 and be okay if you wanted to not level as many. But then if you're not going to run Refractor, then you could run. If you're not going to run Everyman, you can run Refractor. You could run Lazarus for like Elite Plus. You got different options. You can run a Clarion as well. But that's essentially what you're looking for. You don't really need Gemini. I was just using like a superpower group shower as basically like, like that oh shit moment where you've got to recover and basically just buy yourself some time. You can regen yourself for that. Unless you're using like an atomic build, which is focused on supercharge and mass density, then that slightly would change. Then you'd have to go back to like Scrap, the Gemini, maybe run the supercharge generator for atomic. So quickly for healing, honestly, for healing, if you're a healer and have Eye of the Gemini, honestly, I would keep that. Really what you have to do as a healer, it does change how you're doing it. So healing, you can always be like Purple Healing Ray. Where's Page of Destiny? It's floating around here somewhere. Purple Healing Ray and Page. So you can still keep those three. And then you got Transformation as an option. So there's your 3 for pure healing. But what you can do, it involves an ally. So with Eye of the Gemini, they increase the regen for 10Ks. So it restores 3% supercharge for every 10K. So if you're using, like, say, Group Transducer, which for electric would be like the Group Shield, it's a 10K. If you're using that, you get more regen than you did before with Eye of the Gemini. But now you're going to have to run Black Adam. So in terms of the allies, Black Adam, Power of Aton, supercharge generator abilities generate 15% more supercharge. If you want to be like an EOG green spam healer nowadays, you're going to have to run Scrap, you're going to have to run Black Adam ally passive, and you're going to have to run the supercharge generator. Like, say, for electric, it's going to be a static push. That would be your option if you still want to gem spam. You can still do that. You can still do that with a 10K, provide the group shield. I mean, obviously it's going to be slower than before, but you're still providing more regen, like 3% every second, which before was 2%. So, I mean, that's not a giant difference, but it does make up the difference over time. And really, with your green circles, as long as there's not 2 healers, you don't have to worry about really them being canceled. Most of the time, it's solo healed anyway. Or if the tank is running Eye of the Gemini, they're pretty much out of range, so it's not going to be an issue. So really, as a healer, I would still keep Eye of the Gemini. You can toss it if you want to DPS. It's not necessarily a playstyle you have to play anymore, but you can still regen. It just, you're focusing more now on the 10Ks because the 2.5Ks are useless. So really, nothing has changed with healer artifacts. Nothing has changed with tank artifacts. DPS artifacts, we now have an opportunity with E-Bomb to work into the rotation. It's certainly an artifact I would level if you have some free XP as a Might DPS, because I think E-Bomb combinations going forward are going to be really powerful, especially when you factor in like power set allies like Poison Ivy with Nature, etc. Because I feel like, I mean, depending on your content, it's going to be dangerous running Amulet. But in the future, there could be a situation where we can run, I've kind of made a mess of my inventory here. But in the future, there may be artifacts that or allies that come out that allow you to run Trans, E-Bomb, and Amulet. Like, this is an incredibly powerful Might combination. Like, your Might stacks with this, especially with Nature, are huge. Because the Amulet and E-Bomb buffs are the exact same. It's just that the damage is going to be huge and you're basically going to kill yourself. But there may be a situation in the future where you can survive that. The healers could get stronger, etc., or allies could come out. But that's why I would certainly, if you want to kind of maximize your potential for the future, because we don't know when this double XP is going to come back again, I would definitely level E-Bomb, have Amulet, have Trans, and have all the other options. So I know I'm going to get more comments in the comment section in terms of what artifacts specifically they should level. But really, like I said, there's so many different artifacts for so many different combos, and it just depends on subjectively what you are looking for as a player. So take care, guys. We'll see you in the next video.